Let's talk NBA free agency. I'm going to run through all of the signings and the headlines, including the Miles Turner transaction, which no one saw coming. So a lot of elements to that one. And then I'm going to run through a bunch of the other signings that we've seen in the last 24 hours. The Maclean brothers. Yeah, we're doing it a little different on today's pod. These guys are from Scotland. It's three brothers. They're rowing from South America to Sydney, Australia. Day 81. I've been tracking it now the last couple of weeks. We're going to talk to these guys in the middle of the Pacific rowing a boat. Modern technology, amazing. And a longer life advice for you. Free agency, about 24 hours in by the time we taped this, because we had the Maclean brothers, we taped a little bit later in the day. So I was waiting to kind of tape to see what the next thing could be. So maybe something will happen. Oh, Pirtle, $104 million. So that speaks to the center market, because that's where we start this conversation. I've got some thoughts. I've got some notes. We're just going to go. All right. Miles Turner, Milwaukee Bucks, 4 years, $170 million. Fourth year is a player option, plus a 15% trade kicker, which is even bigger to have that negotiated into this thing. And there's all sorts of elements to this transaction that I think makes sense, because one is, well, if Turner, who's a free agent, a team that was just in the finals a week ago, we know the resistance to paying the luxury tax by this ownership group in Indiana. We know that they don't want to do it, but we're like, okay, well, they're going to do it for Miles Turner. And we can have a deeper conversation about Turner as well. But you're like, okay, but who are they bidding against? And this is something I kept talking to Bill about on Sunday night. It's like, if you look at these deals and the structure of some of these, like the Clippers could have gone to James Harden. Hey, guess what? You're not getting $30 million from anyone else. There are deals out there where you look at the total number and you're like, well, why do you have to do that if the Nets are the only team with cap space and they're not going to send James Harden and all that stuff? It's like, sometimes you have to understand that like teams will work with the agents to do what they think is kind of the right thing to do, even if there's other teams that could just play hardball and go, well, fine, go to market. Good luck. And then, I know sometimes the media forgets this. I think fans don't care about this. Bill and I have argued about it. It was like, why would you ever do the agent any kind of favor? But there are times where you can just see how the transactions are playing out. And I felt a lot of that was happening on Sunday and the stuff that was leaking out, where it's like, yeah, we could do this, but we want to take care of our guy. And, long term, this is probably the right way to do business with all this stuff. So it feels like with the Pacers' reported offer of 3 years and $60 million for Miles Turner, well, that leads Turner's agent to be like, can we get creative? Enter Milwaukee, who has cap space because they end up waiving Damian Lillard. If you think about all the Lillard conversations that we had in the final package back to Portland, the debating of the package that was coming from Miami, what it meant basketball-wise, and now to be like how quickly things change, not just in basketball, but in life, that Lillard is now waived, where they use a stretch provision, where now over the next 5 years, the Milwaukee Bucks are going to have $22.5 million of dead cap money counting against their cap again because of Lillard's contract on the $113 million remaining over the next 2 years. So they stretch it out over 5 years, 22.5 per. That's like having Jabari Smith's contract on your books for the next 5 years. It's still a little less, and not having Jabari Smith. So, look, there's other parts of this where it's like there was a report that Giannis was upset. Maybe he shouldn't be, because Dame was going to be out for the entire year, and the Dame addition didn't work out. Whether it's injury, whether it's changing who they are defensively. His first year wasn't very good. Last year, he was better as an offensive player, not debatable. But there were still things that you thought of, like if this group is out there as a 5 and all healthy, like what are they actually going to look like in the East? So if Giannis is worried about his basketball future, I don't know that I would understand, unless he was just into like ultimate loyalty here. Like, I love Dame. I wish they didn't do this. Well, you just added a center in Turner, and you took Turner away from the Pacers. And again, it's two teams that really don't like each other. So I don't know what that report means. Maybe it's true just because Giannis likes Dame, but from a basketball perspective, this is a much better situation for him to be in. Now, Dame should be thrilled because he can go sign a 2-year deal somewhere, rehab for a year, pick out wherever he wants to go, and then make even more money on top of all the guarantee that he's going to keep from the $113 million because he was just waived. The other part of this that I think is worth, like, maybe this is the headline, is the Pacers fans don't deserve this. Okay, Pacers fans, you don't deserve this. You have a terrible ownership group. Okay. Now, this is a team that's paid the luxury tax 0 times since 2005. I guess there's some debate on whether or not they get just north of the number there, but I was reading again. I checked in with somebody else again. There's only 2 other teams that have paid the luxury tax as infrequently as the Pacers have, and that's New Orleans and Charlotte. Charlotte probably going to have a tax team where it's like, this roster's nasty. Let's keep these guys together, right? So you just play in the finals. You end up kind of like capturing this basketball imagination, which I kind of never believe in, that it's even possible for a team with that kind of roster without the certain top 10 player leading everything. And yes, Halliburton's a little different. And if he had closed out and been healthy, there'd be conversations about Halliburton maybe being the 10th best player in the league, but that's not really important right now. Is that the special enjoyment that everybody had with this NBA underdog story is that this isn't really supposed to happen. So I even had said on Sunday with Bill, I was like, I wonder, like with this Turner stuff, okay, well, where would he go? All right, that game again. All right, well, they've got to they're like at 20 million or something, takes them over the tax. They never pay the tax. But you would think with this team that just played in the finals, they'll figure out a way to keep Turner. But then I was like, imagine if they were to use like the Halliburton injury excuses, like, well, what's the point of paying the tax next year when our best player is out? It's going to be out for the entire year. So why do we have to go ahead and pay the tax? Well, you have to pay the tax because it's just hard to find centers. And even with Turner, who, by the way, has been in trade rumors for, I don't know, a decade straight. And I'm not telling you he's my favorite. Probably somebody you can attack defensively, but yet still protects the rim. But a guy who's 29, who can shoot threes, stretch the floor as a legit stretch five, not just a guy who makes one every other game, who's tall, but a real stretch five, gives you some rim protection numbers. That's just where you go, hey, look, this is what the market's going to be. And if it ends up being like in the 20s per year for this guy, then figure out how to save some of the money on another transaction down the road. And I know that, that's going to cut into the tax stuff that you receive as a non-tax paying team and that tax revenue. And if there was ever a year where this ownership group, you would think to be like, okay, you know what? Like everybody feels good about us right now. And the Halliburton part of it sucks, but it's very clear that they're like, oh, cool. Like the Halliburton injury is actually an out for us. And either that was the reason behind it, or they completely misread the creativity of Turner's agent being like, I'm telling you, like, you guys have to do better than 3 years and 60 million. And they were like, no, you don't. Like, you can make up whatever you want. Like, we don't believe you. So maybe it's a misread, but I just don't think between, Carlisle, who's great, all these players that we all kind of fell in love with, this basketball story that we fell in love with, a front office in Carlisle. It's just like, look at what this team did. And now it feels like your ownership was like, oh, well, Halliburton's hurt. So cool. We can avoid the tax again. Let's go 3 decades with this. And that's the thing is like in today's world, even with Turner, again, he's not my favorite player in the league. And there are some limitations. But when you're paying some of these other centers $10, $12 million a year, where you're like, is that guy even going to close with the starting five? Turner's worth this in today's market. And let's also remember too, like 25, 27 million a year is a vastly different contract than just 5 years ago when the salary cap's gone up by like $50 million because of all this new revenue. This is a Pacers team that you've heard rumors about the team potentially being for sale when there's a lot of family members involved. Like, who knows? I'm not close enough to truly understand, but the cap is 154 right now. The tax is 188 million. The first apron's at 196. You can't cross it this year and just go, all right, at least we have Turner figured out. Then we come back to this whole thing. Let's use this year to evaluate some of our guys, but still be in place with a very young team that showed us something to get to Game 7 of the NBA Finals against a 68-win team in OKC. Like, let's use this year to make sure that we're totally stabilized in 26, 27. And they were like, nah, let's just miss the tax again because we love that. They should sell the team. Brook Lopez, he's on the way out, right? From the Milwaukee Bucks. Signs with the Clippers, 2 years, $18 million, full guarantee on that one. Brooks, 37 years old. I'd say 2 distinct times during the season of watching him run up and down the court for the Bucks, I was like, I don't know, man. This looks like it's kind of over. And then the playoffs happened against the Pacers. He played in 2 fourth quarters. 10 other players played in more fourth quarter minutes or played more minutes in the fourth quarter than Brook Lopez did. If you look at the rim protection numbers, which can be something you can use if you like a guy, you can ignore them if you like a guy, but I don't know if there's any debate on just the 6 foot in differential on expected field goal percentage and the real field goal percentage. That has been on a pretty dramatic decline for Lopez. But again, it kind of speaks back to, was it the Clippers knowing the Lakers were going to be hot on Lopez if they can't get Ayton? Was it the Clippers going, we actually kind of have a different look here with a stretch 5 that opens up things like these teams? It's like, we have Zoo, so this is great. We've got this bruiser, this center, some really nice defensive numbers, one of the most impressive kind of developmental stories in the league. But now we compare that with a completely different look. And even at 37 years old in this center market, he's worth $9 million. I'd rather pay Turner. But there you go. All right, Denver, love it. Cam Johnson, $21 million this year, $23 million next year versus Michael Porter Jr., $38 million and $41 million the next 2 years. Now, sure, none of us would want to give up an unprotected pick 7 years from now, but it's only one pick. And it makes sense after what felt like a wasted year of Jokic's prime by not figuring out, look, you don't want to pay KCP. I get it. I don't want to pay. Orlando doesn't want to pay him now, and they already did. But just to be more proactive in trying to figure this thing out and adding more options for this team. And look, I just like Cam Johnson and what you're buying into here with Porter Jr., where I have no idea. I don't think he really gets it. He should be a better player. He could have 25. He could have 0. Nothing would surprise me. I think Cam is just a smarter basketball player, and he costs less. And I know they had to give it the pick. I mean, I think you could even argue with the Nets. It's like you're going to take on that much money, which may not really mean anything, but they still have to pay the salary floor. But they get this unprotected that's valuable just because it's who knows what another team is going to look like 7 years from now. And the fact that the Nets will probably get value with Michael Porter Jr. a year out. Say it's the trade deadline next year. Say it's 1 year from right now. He's expiring. It's still a huge number, but will he put up big numbers with a lot of opportunities with the Nets where another team goes, hey, we'll take a flyer. We can use the shooting athleticism. He's still really, really young. But between the injuries, and I just think his approach to stuff in general, I love Denver's moving on with a cheaper option, which allows other moves. Bruce Brown coming back with the Jokic bump. I love it. There's also probably a conversation of like, what's Michael Porter Jr. going to look like when he needs to initiate all of his own offense and it's not Jokic and it's Cam Thomas? And then you've got the Valanciunas deal here where, look, Saric just couldn't get on the floor for a team that needed him to get on the floor. At least Valanciunas can get on the floor. I don't know that he moves all that well anymore, but it's really only the $10 million for the 1 year, which is still more expensive than Saric, but it's not guaranteed. They make that decision on the second year of this extension that he signed last summer. They make that decision in June of 26. Atlanta, like the Kennard deal, like the Alexander Walker deal, they got a little creative on the Alexander Walker deal to go above the non-taxpayer mid-level. So that was pretty smart by the front office. I like both of these additions more than Porzingis. You've already heard the Porzingis rant. Like if it works, it's going to look really good, but it just feels like a ton of money for a guy that's always hurt all the time. But what's very clear with Atlanta's depth chart right now, with Dyson, Naw, Kennard around Trey, I don't know if they're going to go Okongwu and Porzingis to close games. I have no idea. I would imagine no if Porzingis is healthy. You've got Jalen coming back, who's like one of all of our favorite players to watch in the league. But there's some nice options here for Snyder with this closing group of, do we want spacing? Do we want just defense? Do we want a hybrid of defense and spacing with Alexander Walker? So it's kind of nice to have 3 guys for 2 of those spots. If they don't want to go double big, I guess you could say, hey, let's just run a bunch of those guys out there. But Jalen's clearly part of the closing group when he's back and healthy. Detroit. So non-tax mid-level for LeVert. He turns 31 in August. It's 2 years, $29 million. I'd rather pay Schroeder, who's 32 in September, 3 years, $45 million. I just don't like LeVert's offense. You've heard it before. Dorian Finney-Smith, expensive for Houston, 4 years, 53, another non-taxpayer mid-level. But I do like that even at 32 and a slight decline, I get what they're doing. Even if you go, why do they need him when they have Tari and they have Amen? I know he's a different kind of player because those 2 guys are so unique. And you've got the Jabari deal, which again is still a great deal. I think in the $20 million range of what a player is in today's cap world. But it feels like Houston's going, before we have to pay other guys, let's add another asset, a guy that can, play some fourth quarter minutes depending on the matchup. And then to add, I think the Adams thing was a little pricey at $39 million in the extension, but to get Capella back there, knowing that they can play Şengün with Capella, they can just beat up on dudes like they did against Golden State with Alpi and Adams, or maybe they can just play one of them depending on what they want to do. Like they have so many different things, and Udoka is going to be able to experiment with all of this stuff. But overall, just continue to love what Houston has done. Even if I think that's kind of expensive for Finney-Smith, I think it slots right into one of those deals where you see teams going, let's use this now, have the assets, We'll figure it out later. You just have to have ownership, hope that they're going to give you the flexibility of being like, yeah, we probably don't need to do this right now. And it's adding to the total payroll, but let's use it before we lose that thing when we start doing more extensions and we start looking like a tax team anyway. What else do we got here? We've already talked about the center rotation for the Rockets. The Bulls, Trey Jones, 3 years, $24 million, full guarantee. Wow. They must have loved those 18 games. Memphis, Ty Jerome, 3 years, $27.6 million. Would you rather pay Ty Jerome, $27.6 million, or Trey Jones, $24 million? That's one of those numbers where you're like, what? How did this happen over here? Even if you think the Ty Jerome run is a little Linsanity-ish, it just gives Memphis another look. It just, there's some real trust where Jerome can find ways to get stuff on his own at that number where I'm like, you see those numbers pop up and you're like, how can one team only pay $3 million more for this guy than that team paid for that guy? Staying with the Memphis Grizzlies, I thought the Aldama number was good. 3 years, $52.5 million. Some people think it's too much. I think the other criticism is that they could have waited it out if they wanted to. But I think this speaks to sometimes the agent and a front office working something out, getting in front of it, having that cost certainty, and then they can do the Jaren Jackson extension. And I think Aldama's just kind of underrated, even if in specific matchups you don't maybe love him as a team. It gets really nasty sometimes where we're like, all right, Western Conference Finals, like who's he guarding? You're like, all right, we'll get to the Western Conference Finals first, and then we'll worry about it a little bit later. Tyus Jones to Orlando, 1 year, $7 million, 30 next May. That's the kind of deal that makes more sense. And Tyus was really good with Memphis a couple years ago before the Washington and Phoenix stops. He's still 38% from three. That's another option here, much like the Ty Jerome thing, where it's like Orlando, okay, if we don't want to have Paolo initiating everything, what is Suggs going to be? You now no longer have the Cole Anthony stuff, where let's just admit that I think the overall impact he had in Orlando, although kind of very single-minded with his offense, was still far more productive than maybe people thought it would be. So Cole Anthony's an NBA player. We already know that part of it. But with Tyus in there, who, again, I still have a soft spot because of those Memphis years, and it's not like he's 38 here, probably somebody that's going to be running the offense a little bit more than just getting his own. Orlando, needs to kind of figure out some of these combinations because I think the Paolo bail us out thing just gets really old and super predictable. I like what the Knicks have done here. Yabusele, 2 years, $12 million. Looks like they're going to get Jordan Clarkson. Maybe they'll have him by the end of this. Adding two dudes in that you immediately see within their rotation because they were so good at the starting five and then so thin with the depth behind them. Them picking off players. And this is another lesson maybe in this new world of figuring out these NBA markets of it's a bit like the football free agency where you watch the NFL, you see all the headlines, these massive guarantees, and football is even scarier in free agency because it's like, why is this guy a free agent? The winner's curse of, hey, we got him. We just paid an offensive lineman $20 million a year because the other team let him go and we gave him like $60 million guaranteed. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Then all of a sudden it's like, how did they get this defensive end for $2 million? It's like, well, because everybody used up all of their cap space. So it feels like if you are a team that doesn't have a lot of depth, but you're a good team, enter New York into this conversation, there's some real valuable guys that, like, what's the worst Jordan Clarkson is going to be? Somebody who runs your second unit and gets you 8 points in 8 minutes, when he's running around while the starters are watching. I know that's kind of what Miles McBride is, but Miles still has to get a little spacing, I think, off of other people because the shooting is so good when the intention's on the other players. And so, again, I'm not telling you Clarkson's going to be closing games for you, but the numbers that some of these players are at, they remind me the kind of like the edge guy that gets 8 sacks and you can't believe he was still available in NFL free agency after all the headliners were taken. And you can't believe how cheap some of the players are. So I think that's something to look for these next couple of days as well. It also looks like Utah saying, hey, we're not tanking. Well, it looks like they're also telling Will Hardy, we're just not going to let you have any of the good veterans on the team, even though Collins is still around. So we wait on Ayton. I don't know if the Lopez thing to the Clippers was because everybody around the league was like, look, the Lakers are going to be really hot on Lopez. I'd even heard maybe 14, the full non-taxpayer mid-level for him, but maybe, I don't think he'd had to do 2 years, 28. And if he thought 2 years, 28 was coming from the Lakers, then he probably doesn't sign 2 years, 18 for the Clippers. But I think the Ayton news changes things quite a bit. And again, I cannot wait. And now, by the way, like as much as I don't necessarily like Ayton instead of what the Lakers have now at center, that's a win, especially knowing it's after the buyout. And speaking of buyouts, you wonder if Beal becomes available here as another major headline as we navigate through the next few days of NBA free agency. This is a little different. We've never done this before, and I'm really thrilled to introduce our audience to the Maclean brothers, three brothers from Scotland. They are rowing across the Pacific Ocean. I first saw this on Instagram. The first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck are these guys doing? Three brothers join us right now. I have the tracker going every day. Ewan, Jamie, Lachlan, they're raising money for clean water projects. We're going to get the donation information out there. I've donated today as well. So where are we, guys?
Hey, yeah, we're currently just past Palmerston Island in the middle of the Pacific. So it's kind of above the Cook Islands, about 5,500 miles from South America, where we left off, and about 2,500 miles from Australia, which is our destination.
So looking at the tracker every day now, as I've been super into this, was this the first time you started to see the signs of land, though? Because it looked like you're coming up on these South Pacific Islands. So you start to see a change in the color. You start to maybe see some birds. Like, is this the first time that you've seen anything resembling land?
Yeah, I mean, for the first 4,500 miles, it was open ocean. So we got to the Marquesas. I mean, that was probably 3 weeks ago or so. And then from there, we've been passing atolls and islands, but to be honest, you don't see them. They're actually, they're a bit anxiety invoking because you kind of want to steer clear of them because there'll be currents around them or it'll do funny things to the swell. And yeah, obviously some of these atolls are actually uncharted as well. So it's a little bit in the back of your mind. You're always a little bit on edge when you're too close.
Okay, so I know the story that you guys rode across the Atlantic in world record time. So it's not like you just were sitting around one night having too many pints going, let's do this. But like, what kind of research goes into figuring out whether or not you can pull this off?
Oh, yeah, a huge amount. I mean, it's very multifaceted. So you've obviously got the route itself. And we spent quite a bit of time discussing with various people that are, that kind of know about these things, weather routers and such, and looked at some previous crossings. Quite often, I mean, a team, quite famously, of a group of girls called the Cox's Crew. They did from San Fran across to Hawaii, stopped in Hawaii, then they came down to, I think Tonga or Fiji or something like that, and then they went down to Cairns, Australia. So they crossed the equator, quite a long route. And then there's been a few solo rowers that have managed to do it non-stop from different points in South America, Chile, some from Peru. And then, I guess no team has actually managed to do it non-stop without stopping. It's to do with the amount of food you can carry on board and the speed you can maintain, basically. So it's always been in question whether it's actually possible to, particularly for three of us, to pack enough food on the boat and then keep her moving fast enough. So that kind of, the next element that's really critical to get right is obviously the boat. And we've been super lucky. We've been working with this amazing guy called Mark Slats out in the Netherlands, who he builds, the best ocean rowing boats. He himself is one of the best ocean rowers in the world. And we've designed, he's designed, we've kind of customized this boat, which is super lightweight and fit for the journey, which means we can do it in a fast enough time, basically. So we're aiming for 120 days, which would be about 30, 40 days off the world record, depending on when we get in. So that's the goal. And if hopefully we don't get storm bound, we're about to hit a storm in the next day or so. And that would, potentially we could be up to 150 days or more. We've got enough rations to survive for that.
Okay. The boat, like I was watching you guys scrub it and then I realized like there's not much of a draw on that. Like I was wondering, to keep yourself balanced, like, a sailboat with dealing with all of the rough seas and the unpredictable nature of how deep you're going. It doesn't look like it's necessarily working off of some like deep balance. How did you figure out like whether or not this would work in rough seas?
Yeah, you're totally right. So it's got no keel, so it's a flat bottom boat. They're essentially designed to be like giant surfboards. So the boat is it's about 30 feet long and 6 feet wide, and I mean they're designed to you stay on the surface. You know, you're not kind of you're on the surface of the waves, and they're also designed mainly to go downwind. I mean, when you're doing a crossing like this, you'll try and do it so you're with trade winds, or you're going with the wind. And then if the wind and the waves come together, you can surf. You can get the boat up into the plane, and we probably clocked, I don't know, 20, 25 miles an hour during this crossing, which it is a lot. It sounds terrifying, but it is a lot of fun. You're surfing down like a 15, 20 foot wave, and sometimes you can be up in the plane for like 4 or 5 seconds, and it is exhilarating, especially in the middle of the night when you can't see a thing. But it's in terms of how we decided on that. It's historically these boats have been being made for the last wee while. Historically, they were wooden, so they were flat bottomed wooden boats. Then more recently, fiberglass has come in, and then this boat is actually full carbon. So it's one of two at the moment. They're like. Yes, it's one of the lightest ocean rowing boats out there. We're very, very, we love this boat. We're going to try and hold on to it, and I think we've got some more rowing in us. We've not been totally put off yet. We'll see how this storm goes.
Is someone rowing at all times?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of part of the challenge of this sort of thing. It's totally relentless. I mean, you're rowing through the day and through the night in shifts. So we try and we've got, through the night, we'll have 2 kind of hour 40 rowing shifts each. And then we'll have kind of 2 blocks of 3 hours to sleep, where the other 2 kind of are obviously rowing on their shifts. And then through the day, it depends on the conditions. But at the moment, we've got tough conditions. So we've got 2 on the oars for the entire day. So that's like 14, 15 hours, we'll have 2 on the oars. And that's really tough because you've got like an hour of rowing and then half an hour off. But in that off break, you've got to do loads of stuff. We're obviously eating about 6,000 calories a day. So you've got to often eat, you've got to hydrate, you've got to you've been hit by a wave. So you've got to clean salt off your body. Because if you don't, you get salt sores and maintain blisters. You've got to clean solar panels, use the bucket toilet, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty relentless. I think that's one of the most challenging aspects of doing an ocean row is that it's just, as soon as you set off, you are in it non-stop, literally every waking moment. And even when you're asleep, the sleeping conditions are absolutely horrendous. It's non-stop until you get to the other side.
Okay, like I'm glad you threw in the 6,000 calories in there, because I was like, it's one thing to have food for 2 months. It's another thing when you're burning the way that you guys are. And from all the videos, it looks like you were pretty ripped up going into this. So I don't know that you were storing like, naked and afraid, fat cells like I see on some of the TV shows, or some contestants like I put on 30 pounds of terrible weight because they knew they were going to be starving. So I don't know what you guys are going to weigh in when you get done with this, but I'm wondering in the process of, like, I'm sure you mapped out like, hey, this is the best time to do it. This is the time that makes the most sense, talking to people that have navigated this kind of stuff. But are there moments where you are actually just rowing to keep yourself in place as opposed to like actually making any progress over the 2 months?
It's funny you asked that. We've had a bit of that over the past couple of days, unfortunately. Generally speaking, if we've got adverse conditions and we're unable to make forward progress, we've got a thing called a parachute anchor. It's essentially it's a huge parachute we deploy either off the bow or the stern, depending on the wind direction, and it stops the boat. We've not had to use it yet. So I think over the last 36 hours, it's been the first conditions that I think we probably could have. And there was a night shift, not last night, but the night before, we were rowing. Yeah, it was probably 9-10 hours of rowing, and we didn't make any progress. So we were taking these tracks. We'll take tracks on our phones on Navionics. This is an app to check what course we're doing and what speed we're going. And Jamie in particular, he drew kind of. It almost looked like a horse's head. He'd kind of gone up and then gone back and then down, and it was like all over the place. But yeah, it's slightly demoralizing when you're working your ass off all night and then you check the tracker and you've made about 2 miles of progress.
Okay, what's the scariest moment? Have you had a moment you were like, this actually is now become a questionable decision?
We've had a few. I think two that spring to mind. I think one was probably Lachlan's probably tops my one, but Lachlan was rowing middle of the night, big conditions, and we were approaching. We were quite near some land, which is obviously where you quite often get these kind of quite quick changing conditions and quite big conditions can kind of appear. And he was rowing. I think. It was reasonably sized waves, but probably only like 3 to 4 meters. But I think he had one absolutely monster wave, which was maybe, touching 5 meters, which, a big wave like that is, if it's kind of breasting, so if it's a big roller, but it's also kind of arcing over when it gets you, it can put you into the surf, and, that can be a lot of fun. But it's kind of a sailor's worst nightmare. The kind of scary bit is when you get down to the bottom of the wave. And this happened to us where, there's always a concern for boats that you might go down this big trough of a wave and just keep going into the sea. And that literally happens. Lachlan kind of plunged down into the trough. It kind of breasted over the whole, the boat submerged, basically, the front of the boat. Poor Jamie, meanwhile, was in the cabin, and he had cracked a little bit of it because during the day it's so hot. Having a little bit of the cabin doors can crack, so you can lock them so they still let a little bit of air in. But Jamie had done this, and with this huge kind of deluge of water coming over the boat, it basically just resulted in a kind of river of water coming through the cabin onto Jamie whilst he was sleeping. So quite a rude awakening, and doesn't really make for. You're already not getting much sleep, so then kind of waking up in a puddle and then having to continue on is pretty rough. But yeah, obviously the boat's designed to self-right, so even if we were to pitch pole, which is where you kind of front flip the boat or roll it, it'll self-right. And in this case, the front went down but came back up, no worries. So I think we've got so much confidence in the boat and its ability to kind of weather storms like that.
Do any of you have girlfriends or wives that were like, what are you doing? Although maybe some of you guys are in a position you were like, this is exactly what I need right now. So, take that however you want.
Yeah, no, we've all got girlfriends. They're all supportive. I think actually one of the toughest bits about doing something like for us, we're the things that are scary out here they're in many ways controllable for us. They're right there. They're very tangible. If the conditions are too big, then we can change our course or we can do stuff. But I think actually it's concerns for loved ones at home is it's a tough part of it, because you speak to, obviously we're 3 brothers, so for our mum and dad, it's kind of three eggs in one basket a little bit. They've been through the Atlantic, so we did that, and I think they're probably a bit more relaxed about this crossing, even though it's kind of 3 times the length. But our girlfriends, they're very supportive. They're doing an amazing job at dealing with it. But there's definitely highs and lows of times that it's more tough, times that it's fine. So good question though.
I would ask a follow-up, like, is there one of the 3 girlfriends that maybe checks in too often? But I don't want to start any controversy on the boat here and have to name names. The motivation behind this, I work with Chris Long, who has the Water Boys Foundation, an NFL player who drills wells in Africa. It's something that he's able to raise money for every year. I've been a part of that. So when I saw this too, I was like, okay. But there has to be something that's very personal to you guys on top of like, hey, let's raise awareness. Let's get the donations up and tackle something that you guys obviously think is this important.
Oh, totally. You're totally right. I think when we rode across the Atlantic, we'd never really done much fundraising, and we'd never really thought that much about a cause that we, wanted to raise money for. And I think we recognized quite early on, just by looking at other teams and what they'd achieved with fundraising for charity, that there was a real capacity to make a real difference. So we kind of went through that process of, speaking to lots of charities, starting to understand, what would we fundraise for. And one of the charities, we raised money for a children's charity in Scotland, but we also raised money for clean water projects in Madagascar. I think we didn't really know much about the cause at that point, to be honest. It kind of made sense, kind of water, and it was quite tangible that, you give £30 or $50, and it gives one person clean water for the rest of their life for like 65 years. So that kind of made sense to me, but that was about the extent of it. And then, having funded quite a few boreholes through that campaign, we went out to Madagascar. Lachlan had been once by this point already, but we've been out multiple times now, and we've really understood, I think, the impact to people's lives so much better. And it's so multifaceted. It's something that it's almost like your health. You don't think about your health until you lose it. And I think with water, it's similar in that it's just so fundamental, it's so basic that you almost don't think about not having it. You see a community that doesn't have access to clean water, and it's in stark contrast to ones that do have access. And I think, unfortunately, the ones that it hits most are the children, either through, 1 in 5 kids don't make it past the age of 5 because of diarrheal diseases, so directly related to, and that's in Madagascar at least. And I think then education's impacted because kids can't go to school if they're sick, or I think more importantly, if people are having diarrheal diseases through their developmental years, it stunts growth. It really affects their development. And then obviously it goes on for it's an entire lifetime of impact. People aren't able to go to work, because they're sick. The whole community really is impacted so massively. I think that's a lot by going out and even, helping to dig the boreholes, watching the borehole drilling team, working very closely with our partner charity out there in Madagascar. We've just become really passionate about it. And I think that was really the motivation for us to try and raise as much as we possibly could, do something really big. And obviously there's a cost of, for loved ones especially. I think it's a stressful event for us to kind of put them through, but we think it's just so worthwhile, and it's such a good cause to support. So I think we're going to do everything we can to raise that £1 million for clean water, which for context, that's about 40,000 people with clean water for the next 65 years, with the maintenance, which is, it's absolutely huge. It's just such a big impact, and it really transforms those lives. So that's kind of the cause behind it. And it really helps us get through the really tough night shifts and the tough parts of rowing.
Last thing, because I want to make sure you guys get back to everything you need to worry about here. What's that first night going to be like for you when you find? Do you think there's going to be a lot of people waiting for you? Like, are you going to Sydney?
Yeah, so the intended, intended to go to Sydney. That's the intention, at least. The weather from here is actually, it's due to be kind of some of the most challenging of the trip, and in particular that final leg. So it might be Sydney, and it might be a little bit further up the coast. We've got a whole load of friends and family coming from Scotland. So coming halfway around the planet to see us in. And we've got lots of family in Oz as well. So our cousin Guy, he's kind of like beating the drum and trying to rally up some support on that end. And we're not sure. We've actually, strangely enough, we've had a couple of conversations with Mark Wahlberg, who he found out about the project and he wanted to call in and check in. So I don't know. He's invited us along. He's got a burger joint in Sydney, and he's got one in the Gold Coast as well called Wahlburgers. So we're gonna head there. He suggested that he might pop along and see us in, but I'm not sure. We're not going to hold him to that. But there'll definitely be that first night. I don't know. You know, we've not had. We're probably getting about 4 to 5 hours of sleep per night, but those 4 to 5 hours are broken up into 2 halves, and then even within those kind of 2-hour chunks, you wake up every like 60 minutes, 90 minutes. So it's really as simple as just a bed, a stationary bed that, you know, you can sleep more than 5 hours sleep seems like a total luxury, especially in something that's stationary, not moving. So, yeah. And then Jamie's shouting pizza from the bow. I think food is something we fantasize about. We're all pretty foodie people. So I think pizza is probably top of the menu at the moment. Fresh fruit and veg, just a few beers. It'll be good. We'll appreciate these things as if we're trying them for the first time.
Yeah, because I was thinking about like, all right, they're young guys, they're from Scotland, like they're probably gonna have a huge night. And it's like, actually, they might be like, can we sleep a little bit? But then Jamie yelling pizza in the back makes all the sense of the world. I don't know if Sydney's known for its pizza, but like it'll still just be pizza and it won't be ramen or whatever. When I was watching the Wahlberg interview, I almost felt like he was pitching the movie rights to this whole thing. But then I was like, all right, but they're gonna need some. Like one of you guys is going to have to beat the other one up or something. So I'm glad you're all getting along, but for a movie, I'm just, again, I feel bad planting the seed. Look, check out the MacleanBrothers.com to donate. I donated today. Let's get the word out. And I'm just so incredibly like inspired by what you guys are doing and pulling this off. And I'll be checking in every day. So stay safe out there. All right.
Ryan, thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up again soon.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari, 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
LifeAdviceRR@gmail.com. Wargon, Kyle, hanging out. We have an update on the TVs.
Get out.
Yep. I haven't sent the email yet, but that's an update. No, kidding. Did send the email and got a response, and things are looking good.
Wow.
Nice.
What a week for your boy. Good. Got a library card this weekend. There might be some TVs on the horizon.
No kidding. Library guy, huh? What
library guy.
over there?
Good. I mean, first I was trying to do audiobooks. And then I went to the library, and now I think I'm going to go back to audiobooks. That place is fucking insane. The Hollywood Library is nuts.
Does LA have like an app? Because in New York, we have an app, and it's got all the audiobooks in the library.
Yeah,
app.
I'm on the Libby app.
Yeah, Libby. Same here.
So
nice.
that's cool. Blasting through a Michael Crichton State of Fear right now.
So something the left has done well.
Well, anyway, I felt like I was like a new kind of citizen when I got the library card. And anyway, the guy was super helpful. I think he was happy to have someone that actually wanted to learn about the library other than like, use the bathroom. While I was just there signing up, there was like 5 people walked in. It was like, you got a bathroom in here? They're like, no, we have porta potties outside. Like, wow, this is escalated. But that's just Hollywood. I'm sure there's some really nicer ones, but the one by me is quite a shit show.
I got to be honest with you. I went to the Manhattan Beach Library about a month ago. I had a ton of work to do, a ton. And I went, you know what? Don't be in your house. Because again, if you want a super clean house, try to be a writer, because you will start typing and be like, I don't have it. And then you start looking around your house and you'll think of things you could do. And then it's like, well, wait, I could do this, or maybe I'll do this, or maybe I will. Let me empty out that dryer sheet.
When else am I going to clean the wainscoting? What are you talking about? No one thinks to do that.
Look, I did buy that metal polisher. So let me just charge it up or whatever. So yeah, I was like, you can't have anything. There can be nothing. There can be nothing to distract you. And I went to the library and it was chaos. And I just went,
even in Manhattan Beach Library.
I was like, this is even worse. So I think I grabbed some food, just kept procrastinating, delaying, and then went right back to my house and was like, you can't do anything. My new thing, if I have like a lot of stuff to do, I'll set a timer on my phone. I'll be like, for 2 hours.
It's good.
start the timer, and then even if like I get up or get a phone call, hit pause on it. It's like you owe 2 hours to this.
Right.
So.
And you pause. That's good.
Yeah, the timer thing's actually been a nice little mechanism. Just
dude, look at all this life advice. We haven't even read anything yet.
I know, dude. It's unbelievable. I love that Wargon was all over. Well, in New York City, the library app.
Having fun isn't hard when you got a library card, man. Everyone knows.
Get discounts too, off-Broadway shows and stuff. There's a lot of discounts that come with the LA library card. The guy was very excited that he could tell us all this stuff.
I don't know who it was, but somebody sent me a clip of somebody on a reality show. So I don't know if it was a dating show or not. And the girl was like, my biggest turn on is if you have a library card. And I was like, that's 100% not true, but it's a great line for a TV
It's a great
show.
line
Yeah.
to make you seem like a better person.
I prefer if you have a beach house.
You're right.
The biggest turn on is no alimony being paid each month and a second home. All right. Did you pick the guy who has a place in Aspen or the library card? You know, I can order books. All right. So let's see here. We got some pets. We always like to do the pet ones with Kyle around. Time to stop sharing a cat with your ex. Big fan of the pod. Appreciate what you guys do. I've got a weird one for you in the life advice department. It's about my brother and his ex-girlfriend's cat. They broke up a while ago. Both have moved on. New relationships, new pets, full lives. But every few weekends, my brother still ends up cat sitting their old shared cat like it's some kind of custody agreement. Now, I get that people can have a soft spot for animals, but my wife and I keep looking at each other like, what are we doing here? He's in a new relationship. His ex is in a new relationship. Everyone has their own pets now. Why is it still a thing? To make it more real, he recently mentioned that I need to watch the cat next month if he's out of town. And that's when I realized we've gone too far. I'm now potentially third-party cat sitting for his ex. I don't think I signed up for that. So my question is, how do I tell him no? And also maybe steer him toward cutting this weird lingering tie. He's a good guy. I don't want to embarrass him, but I think he needs the push. Thanks. He said, don't mention his name just in case.
He's your brother, right? You could totally embarrass him just in front of you, obviously, like not in front of everyone else. But like, you're never going to get a closer degree of closeness. Fuck that up. Where you can be honest with this guy, right? You're never going to find someone where you can say more of the shit that you actually want to say to than this man. No? Maybe if your stepbrother, it's different, but he didn't mention.
No, it's his brother. I imagine, are we south of 30 on this one?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I just don't feel like he's like, I'm 44, my brother's 42. I'm just not.
Yeah, you're right.
Although people with pets can get really, I saw a guy walking 2 dogs the other day and he, didn't wait for the crossing signal. He just was like, I'm walking. And then people got mad in the cars and he like looked at everybody else like, how dare you?
Do you see these dogs?
I have 2 human beings with me. And the breed of dog too, I was like, that totally checks out.
Okay.
Because like, I was like, what the hell's going on up there? And then I went, oh, that's so perfect. And he was looking at everybody else like everyone else was wrong.
Right. It
was unbelievable. So yes, we understand people can get really excited about their pets. I don't think this is really that hard. He's asking you if you can do something that's another layer of absurd. Now, we could all sit here and judge and be like, why would you still continue this thing with this cat? Maybe he really likes the cat. If this is making him happy,
give it to him. And this is the closest he can get, right? She just won't give him the cat.
Right. Yeah, there's probably some of that too. He clearly still loves his cat. So, let him love the cat on his own time. But now he's asking you to interrupt your time. And so he's given you a gift. He's given you the perfect entree into you being able to say, actually, no. And let's talk about this
real quick.
Yeah. While we're here. This isn't a detour to a topic. This is the on-ramp to a discussion that you've wanted for a really long time.
You know what I was just thinking about? Right.
What were you? Oh,
no, that's
dialogue. Okay.
Yeah,
My bad. I didn't pick up on that. Yeah. Wargon. So I don't really know that this is all that complicated other than you clearly have not had this conversation with him. And now you get to, and your wife isn't going to want to do it. And you're just going to go, hey, dude, guess what? Like, 1, we're not doing that. And 2, like, how long are you doing this? And then if he tells you he absolutely loves the cat and the cat's super important to him, then that's fine. But guess who's not watching it? You guys. So it's a win across the board.
Wargon, did we go? Do you have the cat?
I don't have a cat. No,
All right.
Yet.
no, never.
What? Don't like
I got
cats.
some rabbit advice for you though, Kyle, if you want it.
Dude.
I got a
yes.
buddy. His girlfriend's got rabbits. He says if they eat the cardboard, it shortens their lives.
Dude, they're getting cardboard.
Yeah.
It's not a steady diet, but they're certainly getting some.
Maybe time to change that.
Dude, somebody just asked my wife.
Look at Ryan's face.
Somebody just asked my wife if she wanted to rescue 2 more rabbits, and she actually thought about it, and that she knew. She knew like it wasn't happening, but like, come
That's
on,
a good
man.
sign right there.
You
That'd
guys
be a
call
good day
yourselves
for
our
you.
friends. You know how I feel. Like they're like a couple who are like friends with us. They know the whole story. And this girl really asked if she wanted to rescue 2 rabbits. And I'm like, dude, next time we have an outing, I'm going to have to like mention this. I think you really tried to screw me over here. Thank God, like cooler heads prevailed. But there was a moment where I was like,
2 more. Oof.
this is what terror feels like. Okay. But anyway, didn't happen.
That's progress. I have this newfound hope for you.
Thanks. Me too. Me too.
What do you got? 12 over there? 12.
No,
rabbits?
down to 4, buddy. Down to 4.
Down to 4.
Are they
Recently?
dying?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them's dead. Yeah.
Ooh.
You sound pretty broken up
Well, that
about that.
Ah, man, it's been rough.
You don't even tell us. Like we're a family now. Man.
I
We've been
hate
doing this a
talking
long
about the
time.
rabbits, but this,
Yeah, but-
like this one had to come up.
Yeah, but
It's
one
like
just-
embarrassing.
How
what?
recently
let
are
me
we
tell you-
talking?
hold on, let me tell you how all these. Every time somebody learns this little nugget about me,
Yeah.
someone next to me or around me will be like, somebody says rabbits, he's like, oh, Kyle's got rabbits. I was like, really? And then I was like, tell them how many you got. And I say, and they're like, what are you, a fucking psycho? And that's just how every time somebody learns about these rabbits goes. And I know it. And it's like, I get like a tiny little sick feeling in my stomach, like, gonna have to go through this again. Like, no, we bought one from a shady spot in K-Town. It was pregnant. Boom, 2 died. Now 1's dead. I got 4. And it's like, I try to hit the Cliff's notes of the story. But just when someone is about to learn that A, I'm a rabbit guy, and B, I have multiples, I just never look forward to doing that whole thing.
Yeah, I know. I can't stop bringing it up. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I don't know what the
Yeah.
amount of respect that person loses for me when they learn this bit of information, but it's not 0. So I don't know.
The fact that one died recently and you didn't even mention it, and I'd say your mood is usually a pretty high baseline of like enjoyment. I think you're an enjoyer of the day. That just speaks to your resilience.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
No, okay, hey, listen, I'll update you on any further miracles or tragedies or whatever we're calling it.
What would a miracle be?
Having 3 rabbits, I
Come-
guess. I
come
don't know.
back to life? I don't know.
Having 3 rabbits, I don't know. Anyway.
Back up to 5.
Nephew Joffrey over here. All right. Is a twin bed at age 30 laughable?
Yes.
A little bit, yeah.
Do we need to read it?
We can move right on.
I'd like to know what his rationale is if he's defending it somewhat.
Okay. Well, let's get some more details. Age 30, 5'4", 112. Kyle.
Hey, dude, in this waste economy, I think this guy might be onto something. I don't know. That guy does not need 1/2 of a queen bed.
Doesn't even need the twin XL, I guess, right?
Can I get that twin in a long?
Well, I mean, Mike, you've been inside some pretty cramped New York apartments. Think about all the extra space for activities. You know, if you're
No, I mean,
a single
I've
guy.
been in apartments where you have to have a twin. I have
Right.
friends who have
All
to
right,
have
so-
twins because if they have a full, like, the closet will not open or something like that.
Right.
Okay. So again, the question was, is a twin bed at age 30 laughable? Details, 5'4", 112 pounds. Calf strain. Retired from pickup basketball, but I'm the best player in my grad school intramural D3 co-ed Ultimate Frisbee League that just won a championship. The league was pretty weak. Okay. That secondary part of it made me think this might be a little fake, but then he said the league was pretty weak. So I think this guy's just, here are the details. Hey guys, I'm currently living in a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate in a northern NBA city, but I'm going to be moving into my own place next month. I'm excited to live on my own, but the rent prices are insane in my city, and I'm just finishing up grad school. It only makes sense for me to rent a studio. Hey, I lived in a studio age, how old was I? 24 until 26. Yeah. 3 good years, though.
That's a
3
long
fun
time.
years. Yeah. Some days I'm like, I should have just kept that. I could always have it. Now I can afford it. I couldn't even afford it when I lived in it then. But shout out to Jack, Rusty Scuffer. Always just a understanding landlord. Anyway,
Nice. Love those.
yeah, I mean, he
Never had one. Love to be a part of one someday.
Yeah. Well, we were all kind of deadbeats, to be honest with you. So they would make the rounds and be like, hey, rent's late. Like, yep, we know. We just wait for the note. I lived in a studio before, moving in with my current roommate, and had no problems with it. I don't need a lot of space, and I like that there's even less to clean. There's one thing to consider, though. What size bed should I get for my new place? My current place came pre-furnished with a queen bed. As you can see from my stats, I'm not big, and I don't move around when I sleep. I'm more than comfortable in a twin bed. I found in the past that any extra bedroom is completely wasted on me. Based on this, our guy's just efficient, man.
Yeah.
Based on this, getting a twin bed seems like the reasonable choice since it will give me more living space in an already small studio. However, is having a twin bed at the age of 30 laughable? So, look, when we read the email title, we thought we were going to get through this in record time. That was going to be a new record for us. I do wonder if we should do that one day. Just try to get through 30 yes, no's the whole time. I don't know that the audience would love that. I'm a single male man. I'm not going to pretend like I bring women home often, but in the case I do, she's going to
ever, dude.
Yeah. Is she going to burst out laughing when she sees that I have a twin bed?
Yes.
Do I get a bigger bed solely for this reason? Am I overthinking this? I actually did have a twin bed a summer before my senior year in college. And I don't know how I did that now that I think about it. But it was like,
well, you had less mass, right?
That was such a bullshit living situation. Like we had, I think there were 4 bedrooms, but there were 6 of us. And because I was on the lowest, yeah, but I was on the lowest end, and there was supposed to be like a finished basement, and then the basement didn't get finished. So I was in an unfinished exposed framing cement basement. And
nice and chilly there in spring semester, huh?
Well, I got no. This was a summer. It was a summer deal. So we were all, I think we were. Now I was bartending the summer before that, but that summer was like a weird one because I ended up not working a ton. I don't think, but you're 20, turning 21 for me. You suck it up or whatever. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I think you're onto something. I think it's really cool that you're just like, hey, this is my deal. I'm 5'4", I'm 112. I don't move a lot. I have a studio. It's nice to have the extra space, but that chance where things are right? I don't like to use the word vibes anymore because I feel like every Instagram reviewer is just like, oh, this cafe is such a vibe or whatever. It's like we gotta come up with new words, man. But there's a chance when everything works right, your lines are hitting, you're getting laughs, you know.
You're 0.8 miles away. Come on.
Yeah, right. She's not super caught up on some of the other just things women are caught up on, like height. She might, I don't know if she'll laugh outwardly. She might laugh internally.
Yeah, it's a group chat thing.
And that's where
that's a twin bed.
You nailed it, Kyle, because there might be he has a twin bed conversation for the girl amongst her friends. And, next thing you know, your nickname's Twin. And you don't know it.
You'll never know.
TB. And it's not Tom Brady.
That was fucking awesome.
So I don't know. I love where your head is at. But I think we need to play out all the scenarios. Now, if that does not bother you, there's nothing better. Like you're 5'4", she's already there. You have this confidence that maybe people underestimate. And if you're like, yeah, I got a twin, what's up? Less surface area to vacuum underneath.
Sorry, the white wine's not cold. It won't fit in my mini fridge, but we can get some ice. This guy's got a twin bed, a hot plate, and a mini fridge. Just doing his best.
Want to split a 4-pack of High Noons? So
oh man,
there's another line I had that I'm not going to say. I'm all for the twin. I'm for the twin. I'm in favor of it. But just know it could be a thing that is discussed behind your back, and you might not care because I think you're about to graduate from grad school, kicking ass ultimate frisbee apparently, and I just like the way you're dialed in.
Yeah, it's also kind of a great thing to look forward to. Like when you're done with all this stuff and you move to the next place, it's like, then I'll have my queen bed. And you could leave that shit out for the bulky items pickup for the garbage. Like that's just not something you're bringing with you. That's great. It's like it's sort of like a rite of passage or a whatever. You're going through, you're crossing the threshold into queen bed territory when you make that move from that studio apartment, because nobody wants to stay in a studio forever, I don't think. So yeah, as long as you're good with the consequences, which sounds like would be few and far between, if at all, dude, you don't even toss and turn. I think it's great. Maximize your space.
I think you spring for the full. A full is not that much bigger than a twin. You know, like let's meet in the middle here.
Maybe this guy doesn't even know about full.
Maybe he's learning something right now. Get the full. Like when you need it, you'll be happy you have it. And it's not that, I think we're talking like 6 inches bigger. Like it's not a ton more space.
Has full lost its place in the sleep option consciousness?
Yeah, it sounds like it's queen or nothing, right?
I had a full. I had a full after I graduated college.
I had a full.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was like killing it.
Full is like, you know, those couples in the early 1900s that like sleep on like beds next to each other. That's like the full, right? That wouldn't be a twin.
I think that's a king, isn't it?
No, separate beds, but like they're tiny little guys.
2 twins next to each other is like a king.
I don't know if it was a king or a full. I was just asking. I thought maybe Ryan would know because he's a little older than us, but I don't know.
I didn't really understand what you were saying. You might be right, though. This is where you'll offer up some expertise on something, and I sound dismissive, and I don't want to be dismissive to you because you might be totally right.
I don't even know what question I type into Google, so we could just move on.
What's the question again?
I was like, is a full-size bed like the size when like those married couples would sleep maybe in the same room but in 2 separate beds next to each other? You'd sometimes see it in movies. Like that wouldn't be a twin bed. It's probably a full, like what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of stuff from olden days where it was like, I just remember, now I'm starting to remember like older great aunts and uncles, and you would just go, what the hell's going on in there? Right? It was like 2 old-fashioned beds.
Yeah.
Beds were always made. It wasn't even a comforter. It was like some weird, like, astronaut type quilt, but it wasn't a quilt.
Like, is that a doily? What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
do you take that off before you go to sleep?
Like, if anything, we'd even close to ignite this, it would just be like everything would be on fire instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that world, just what I've seen in the pictures and maybe at grandmother's house. But
maybe I'm thinking about a grandparent's apartment right now when I was really, really young. And just you walk in there and you're like, this is the least fun room in existence. This is awful. I've seen hell. I want to get out of here. Like, what are you even doing here? This is terrible. Yeah. I think medieval times, you don't even know what the specifications were. I think those beds were enormous. Like you couldn't even get a fitted sheet for them.
Yeah, it was just like Charlie's house in Willy Wonka, right? Just how many people can we pack in this bed?
Yeah. By the way, what was the inspiration behind that?
Dude.
Like the guy that wrote that to then be like, this whole family, like, did he know somebody? Was there a kid in town? You know, because a lot of this stuff has to come from somewhere. It's like, imagine.
Yeah.
Like,
man. Crazy concept.
Yeah. Is he going to make the bus? No, he's probably still in bed with
his grandparents and his uncle.
Okay, this is a pretty yes or no one. Should I tell my girlfriend in 2 years I've slept with most of my female friends?
What's the point of that?
Yeah. Hey guys, long time, first time, 26 years old, 6 foot, 170, bench 205, squat 225, deadlift 315. Just ran my first sub 2 hour half marathon. Shout out Oregon. Thoughts on that?
It's good. That's what I'm aiming for in October, November.
Have you broken 2 hours?
No, not yet.
How close?
In like a training, I've done like 205.
Wow.
Pretty close, dude.
We're right there, buddy.
Yeah.
That's like between a full and a twin. You know, it's like you're right there.
Did that work?
He said it was only 6 inches away. I don't know. Whatever. What's the fucking email, Ryan?
I didn't know. I thought it was maybe a great line, and
let's talk about this poor bastard who's about to make a mistake.
Or this guy's awesome. I don't know. We should feel bad for this guy.
That guy's got a queen bed.
I do wonder if Wargon, we could get you some sort of thing. I mean, we just got TVs, maybe. we're closer to getting TVs than not getting TVs, I should say, based on the latest correspondence. But I would love if Wargon's like bio was just like Reebok athlete or something.
Reebok athlete.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, we used to
Maybe
have
we'll
On
see.
Running, right? Maybe those guys can come back around.
Yeah, that was a Bill deal, though.
Yeah, it was. Certainly was.
That was a Bill deal. We've never had a sneaker deal. There you go. All right. Hey, guys, long time, first time, 26 years old. We already read that. My girlfriend and I have been dating for the past 2 years. We both work in the same highly competitive industry and live together in a major Southern California city, a city that Ryan has spent the last few episodes of Life Advice shit-talking. Yeah, the downtown, the city part of the city that I was talking about. It's not my first choice.
Yeah.
My question is this. Should I tell my girlfriend that I've slept with most of my close female friends? Well, the blink test on this one is no. Let's keep reading. The original plan was obviously to never bring this up, but we just got invited to my high school friend's wedding, a friend with whom I shared a brief tryst in my early 20s.
That's a fun word.
Yeah, it is. We need to bring that one. I hope it replaces, well, it can't really replace vibes, but something has to replace vibe. Among the invitees are about 14 women that I've slept with.
Hell yeah, dude.
Jesus.
14, dude?
Hell yeah.
We got some sexual beasts emailing in the last couple
This guy's
shows.
an athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a million follow-ups that I'm not reading to that email. Other than a very overwhelming, like a lot of sad guys emailing in, and then some guys that were really sad that are no longer sad. So take that information however you want. But there was a lot of like guys just emailing in saying, get out, get out, get out. I don't know. Sometimes there's other stuff that's more important. The way you see the world. No one is going to go, yeah, great call. All right. What worries me is that in a setting featuring plenty of alcohol and merriment, another good word, Kyle, something might slip and open Pandora's proverbial box, which would in turn, which would in turn lead to my girlfriend finding out the extent of my man-whoreness. Just to clear some things up, I've never been part of any polyamorous relationship. Okay, dude. I mean, honestly, who knows?
We're just figuring out you've penciled everyone in.
I'll be honest. If there's an Instagram thing where it's like, yeah, the three of us live together, I'll look. I'd be like, who's the loser out of the three? That's the first. And then I'm in and out pretty quickly. I don't like.
Let's get a quick lay of the land and
yeah. Be like, no way.
I feel like I've had like a couple friends of friends who are in those types of relationships. 100% of the time, it ends with like two of them leaving the other person.
How
Yeah,
else
it's just
did it work?
tough.
Yeah.
Just tough.
Right.
Like, I couldn't go down to Slay Steak and Fish with my two girlfriends and expect everybody to be like, hey, man, how's it going? Pretty good, dude. Thinking about moving to Dubai. So he says he's not that, which is, thank you. For the most part, these are all one-night stands, short situationships. As far as I can tell, none of these ever ended on any bad terms. We all remain close. That's impossible. They're all on good terms. This guy's
A
unbelievable.
little naive, but that's okay.
It's like when some guy gets called up from AAA and you're like, he's reached base 10 straight at bats. You're like, he can't be this good. My girlfriend's also met most of these women. They all get
Metaphors
along.
are awesome today.
Now consider themselves friends. This point especially makes me feel guilty because I know that if the roles were reversed and I found out that I've been hanging out with a dude who used to bang my girlfriend, I would not be stoked. Yeah, no, I
That
get
makes
it.
sense.
Look, if I went to a wedding and my girlfriend's like, I slept with 14 different guys who were at this wedding, I wouldn't be like, I can't wait to meet them.
Like you said, open bar, right? Okay, great.
Imagine
Just can't
if it
call
was
it a
like,
shot, right? Okay, whatever you say.
I'm just 100 Coors Lights in. She's like, you have to watch the New Mexico State game? Yep.
Right now.
So what should I do? Should I break the news to my girlfriend before the wedding? Should we go and just hope that this never comes up and repeat the next time someone and I used to have sex with invites? Never mind. I don't know what that's. Should we just go and hope it never comes up and then repeat the same exercise the next time someone I used to have sex with invites us to a wedding, birthday, etc.? Oh,
Yes,
man.
yes. Can you imagine if nothing happens and you were like, hey, just so you know, I'm a pretty big deal with this crowd.
I've been crunching
And,
some numbers and
you know, it
14.
was a long time ago. And she's like, what? And then nothing happens? You look insane. And you'll be like, everyone says they want honesty, but like you say something like that, like I think the odds are not in your favor that she's going to be like, well, really glad you told me. I'm glad we could, like, it's like, that's the ideal version of this conversation. I just think that, you know, you gotta have to roll like a 7 here. And I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's going to work. So,
Well said.
I wouldn't. And then if it does, it's like, it's obviously not you, unless you're worried about you turning into like a fucking animal when you get a few free drinks in you. It would be someone else's fault, and then you can totally explain that away. It would be uncomfortable, but nowhere near as uncomfortable as what you're thinking about doing. I'm not saying your wife or girlfriend isn't cool. Just saying you're certainly expecting a lot to like just come clean about like being pretty awesome before you met her. Like, I don't know.
Also, if you tell her every single thing you do at this wedding is going to be over scrutinized. It's
Yes.
like, oh, you brushed her on the dance floor. What does that mean? And then all 14 of these girls are not going to gang up and tell your girlfriend that they all slept with you at some point. You know, worst case scenario, it's like one girl says something. So I feel like
That's all you need, though, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think.
But then you can say the story that you were going to say anyway. Like, what? How does it make
Right.
it better? I don't. The only reason, actually, this is better because then like that person did something wrong, and you're like, okay, here's it. But other than that, like, I don't. When you just say this, it seems like you're the guy who did all the wrong shit. I mean, it's just about how it's framed. I don't know how you get. Especially, it sounds like the wedding's coming up. You know, it's not like, hey, before we say we're going, I just want to let you know this. You're like, you know, your bags are packed at this point. I don't know, man. I wouldn't. I think people can be adults, and you know, those moments that you're worried about don't happen all the time. You know, certainly not all the time. It's like that's like a big mistake. You're just counting on people to do their fucking job at this wedding. I think you could probably count on that.
This is tough though, because a lot of it has to do with how she's wired, right? And some people, we've talked about this a bit in the past. Some people
Which
are
one, dude?
incredibly mature
Yes.
about this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, all right, this is all before me, and like, whatever, you're with me now, and that's the standard. That's pretty rare. That's pretty rare to find that. Okay. And I mean, you'd have to be honest, like, how does your girlfriend react to certain things? Some girlfriends look at it as like, this is all in the past, and whatever correspondence, you know, like it all makes sense if you still are friends with this group. Other women would always look at it as a threat, and it would speak to their level of security, insecurity, right? So you'd have to be like, is she towards the secure side of things, or are there little things that you've had in your relationship to this point where you're like, okay, some insecurity is shining through here a little bit? But I don't, you know, that's like, if you reverse it too, I would probably rather not know. And just
Especially if
go.
it doesn't matter, according to her,
Yeah.
right? According to the person who's like the serial friend.
My
whatever.
fear would be if she's really like a perceptive person and then can turn things into bigger things than they actually are. You've got to avoid 14 landmines at a wedding. It's just, I don't like your chances here.
Really?
No, I don't think that's possible, because there's like, look, if this guy's this desirable to even pull this off in the first place, all right, there's going to be somebody, probably a couple, right? Like, he can say it's all ended on good terms, which maybe there was no big blow up, but there's probably 2 out of this 14 that still don't like you and don't like how it went down. And it may have been completely mature and professional. I guess professional is the wrong word to use here, but you may think it's all, but there's probably somebody who still likes you out of this group. I don't think it's a 0 for 14 emotional attachment when you've had a physical experience with the other person. So there's probably, I think 2's on the low end. There's probably a couple, you know, you get a couple of those sangrias going, and next thing you know, they're putting their arms around you, whatever. And is your girlfriend going to be like, hey, Deb was a little touchy-feely. And then is she going to, you know, are there going to be follow-ups? So I would just tell you probably not to do it, because I don't know that I would want that to happen to me. But at the same time, too, you'd also be sitting there going like, you know, but, you know, do you feel like the sucker, or is that your own problem? You know, I'm just telling you, a younger me would have not handled this really well where I would have been like, can't wait to go.
Yeah, I think the best, most prudent course of action would be have that fucking story ready, have it framed exactly right, the way you want. If something happens and you need to tell her about it, and if not, just keep on keeping on, man. I don't see why this has to.
If it happens, do you come clean to all of them at once,
no,
or just the one?
I think that's
Just
another.
No, I think
Well,
you guys are wrong
maybe not
there.
just the one, but this, I don't know. That's the stuff you got to think about. That's stuff I'm not ready to just spew into a mic, but that's stuff I'd take a long shower and think about.
I just think if you go, well, no, it was just, I mean, you don't want to lie, but if she were like, what's going on there? And you're like, hey, it's like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense. High school friends, like, obviously there's got to be a couple. And then if she puts you in a position where she's like, are there any others? And you go 13.
Well, that's the worst case scenario.
Here's what I would say. If it comes to that, comes to some version of it, just go, guess what? You won. This guy. Don't make it that egotistical. But you know what you could do? You could dump on yourself a little bit. Hey, mixed up kid.
I didn't know what I wanted. Yeah.
Didn't know what I wanted.
It
Wasn't
was a really
mature enough
sad
to
time
do
for
it.
me, actually, believe it or not. Right.
Never
Something
really
like
had, never had a connection. I don't know. Something about my parents, maybe. And then
that's what
you'd be
Dr.
like,
Jerry says. Right.
yeah, right. Yeah. And it's like my middle brother got a bike at Christmas, and it was like, actually, I had picked it out. Yeah, I would just be prepped. I'd be prepped up on this one. Kind of beat up on yourself maybe a little bit in the delivery of the message that the reason none of those things ever work is I'd never met anybody that makes me feel the way you do. Let's dance. There you go.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. God damn.
We should run this one on Thursday to get guys ready for the weekend. Almost feels
Right?
like a waste on a Tuesday. All right. Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Marcelino. And you, the audience, for checking us out on Spotify Video Pod as well. Our YouTube page. We'll have a Friday feedback that we're going to tape next week for sure this time for reals. So thanks for checking out Ryen Russillo Podcast, Ringer Spotify.
They were gonna name me Michael Jordan. My dad was like, I don't think he can live up to it, so they named me Michael Jared.
Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is there. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.